So now that we've, added our units in here, let's just talk about some of the things you can do with them. So if we select one, you can see here that we have all of our construction parameters. And this allows us to swap out mullions for different ones. So let's say I want to jam left. Can pop that guy in there. On this one, I want to make it jam right. I can select here, jam right A. There we are. You can, just like the G units, you can assign glass types. So IF1 will be the bottom light. We'll just make it glass 1. IF2 will be the top light. Make this glass 2. You can do things like set the mullion offset. So this will push the mullions all backwards if you need it. So just to show you, set a crazy offset. Mullions all get pushed back from these adaptive points. You can turn on shadow boxes. So it'd be shadow box A. You see that comes on in. You can do the same thing with the back pans. So let's say there's a back pan as well for some reason. Turn both of those on. You can do the same for the top as well. So let's select this one so we can see it a little better. Shadow box A. And there you are. And those also, you can set the offset to be whatever you'd like. So say you want the offset to be to scoot back. You can see that if you set it, it gets scooted back from these adaptive points. You can also go ahead and run a set frame parameters on these. So if you do WW setup, set frame parameters, let's say you have all the right mullions in there for your project, Windows select, press finish, say OK. And now when you click on one of these units, you can see that all this data has been applied to the glass bites and the closure panels. So that's the shadow boxes and the back pans. And now another thing that you'd have to do to get it ready for the takeoff program to read would be to click on your walls, the curtain wall RO, set the elevation to something, so X. And then you also have to go in and set the elevation within the unit itself. So if you select all these and you make these elevation X, now when you run the takeoff browser, you can see that all these are getting picked up. So your units and your walls. And all your mullions are coming in. You got your infills. So you can see everything's getting identified by the takeoff browser. So the next thing I'd like to go over is kind of how to make adjustments to these. So let's say you want this top of horizontal to be at a different height. You can Windows select over where the horizontal and the curtain grid is. Go to filter, check none, curtain wall grids. I find this to be easier than trying to tab into the curtain wall grid, just doing a Windows select and filtering. So I'd recommend it, but that's my personal preference, I believe. And then let's say you want these verticals to change slightly. You do check none, curtain wall grids, Change this to something like 3 feet. Now let's say the shape of the wall changes slightly. You can make those adjustments by clicking on your current wall RO, edit profile, then come in here and do the same thing where we adjust the lines a bit. Let's say for whatever reason, this jam area gets moved, let's say something like 3 inches. My recommendation would be to just grab this line, do the move command, and move it 3 inches to the left. You can remove constraints, is fine. Now what you don't want to do is delete one of these lines and then redraw it, because that will essentially delete out the mullion, the sill track that we put down, which is not what we want. So let's go back. So yeah, so you can flex these any way you please. Move them around. As you can see, the wall adjusts. Okay, so now that I've shown you a few of the little tricks and little adjustments you can make to these, the next video will be just about some of the special conditions and certain things you might run into that might not be as typical as these.